Oh, let me tell you something. Busting makes me feel good.
Hey everybody, welcome to Blockbusting, the podcast where we love to hate the movies.
Hey.
I'm your host Jay Light. Joining me today, Joe, Carl, Abousakher.
That's me. That's my name.
What's up, dude?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Let's do it like this.
This is why. Listen,
you got your flops on. I like it.
I just started recording at a new studio. Shout out to BetterBox. I can't have you do that one there though because you have you're not free during the days. So we're here on the couch, old school blockbusting style.
This is how it's usually done, right? I haven't watched any of the blockbusting.
Well, I got this new studio. There's a guy who explicitly hit me up on Twitter and was like, "I really like all this new stuff you do in the studio. You got clips, you got it's no tangents."
We're not going to do any of that for mine.
Hates me from the very jump because I don't have any ways of putting on clips. We're already off on a tangent. So sorry at Podcasts and Pulse.
Okay.
This is the way it's going to be every once in a
You know
while.
what? It's probably better we shouldn't see any of the clips from this movie because it's fucking terrible.
It is fucking terrible. It's Trouble with the Curve. Clint Eastwood stars as an aging baseball scout who starts going blind.
I took notes, by the way. I had to watch this god-awful movie again last night to get a refresh. It's been a few years.
Not only did you take notes, you highlighted specific things.
It's bad. All right, before we get started, let me get to how I came to this movie.
Yeah, I'm curious.
I've watched a lot of movies in my day, and I've hated many of them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but I wanted to decide how. I think I texted you this. I was like, how am I going to go about it? Right.
Right.
What kind of hate am I doing?
Yeah, you had a couple methodologies.
Am I doing the overrated hate?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there's movies that are like I don't like, but they're not awful. But I don't like them because they're overrated, and I just don't think they're great.
Right.
Like E.T.
Okay.
That's not a good movie. People love it.
Oh, I'll disagree with you on it not being
Exactly.
a good movie.
Most people do. But I could have came in with like arguments for that. Same thing with Caddyshack. Caddyshack's not a good movie. It's
I've never
not
seen
funny.
Caddyshack, so I can't stick up for it.
Watch it, and you'll realize, wow, this isn't that funny.
Okay.
It's just in the ether, right?
So overrated, which he didn't go for.
Didn't go for that one. Or I could have gone with the disappointed route, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is a movie that you go into and you're excited for. You're like, I love this director. And you get in there and you watch it and you were so let down that you hate it, right?
Yep.
Movies like Elysium. Do you remember that one?
I didn't even see it.
It was the...
That's what Chappie was for Neil Blomkamp for me.
Right.
Same director.
You were so excited going in. You're like, man, this is going to be like the answer to District 9.
Yep.
And it's a shit show, right?
Interstellar does that for me.
I liked Interstellar. I liked it a lot.
I was
But
very disappointed.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Same thing with Mother for me. I love Darren Aronofsky. That movie has been made by every film school student in the history of film school.
I think Mother gets a bad rap.
It sucks, dude. It fucking. I made Mother, right? I made Mother in college, right? It's, oh, every artist is God, and you gotta fucking. It's bullshit.
This is
right?
why I stuck to making student films about radio DJs who have
That's
sex
more
talk
original
shows.
than Mother. All right. All right. So then I finally landed on, you know what? We're just gonna go bad.
Yeah.
Movie that you watched and it was so bad that it made you mad.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is this.
That is Trouble with the Curve.
Trouble with the Curve.
A 2012 American sports drama film directed by Robert Lorenz, starring Clint Eastwood, Amy Adams, Justin Timberlake, Matthew Lillard, and John Goodman. The film revolves around an aging baseball scout whose daughter joins him on a scouting trip. It was Clint Eastwood's first acting project since Gran Torino and his first acting role in a film that he did not direct since his cameo in 1995's Casper.
Which, by the way, he didn't direct this, but the guy who directed it was the first AD of all his movies.
Yep.
And it's another Clint Eastwood
It's a Clint Eastwood movie. He's a first AD and he's also a producer. He's won Best Picture he's nominated for Best Picture for Mystic River, Letters from Iwo Jima, and American Sniper.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this is a Clint Eastwood film, no different than any of the other ones that he's directed.
Right. It felt that way to the point where when I first was watching it, I tried to not look at my phone, to look at stuff and get any spoilers or anything. Not that there's a whole lot to spoil in this god-awful movie. But I was watching it from the lens of like, all right, this is Clint Eastwood directing a movie. And the thing I know about Clint Eastwood is that he only does one take and moves on.
And that is on full display in this movie.
This is a movie where whoever directed it was like, that's fine. We're moving on.
Yeah, the actors look like they are reading off cue cards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, this is like their first take. They're like, I just want to be able to say this out loud first to see how it sounds. And Clint Eastwood's like, you know what? That's good enough. Let's move it. Keep it moving, people. Let's go.
And it's such a shame because I think the people in this movie are not bad actors.
Amy Adams is one of the best actors of our time.
Amy Adams
she is amazing.
Yeah, Amy Adams
she comes
is great.
off as dog shit in this movie.
Yep,
It's not her fault.
It's I think part of why Justin Timberlake seems like he has the most life to him in this movie is because he's done SNL so many times. He can do a cold read and knock it out and then be like, all right, cool, we're good.
We'll get there later, but their chemistry is disgusting.
Yes.
All right? It's awful.
It doesn't make there's a lot of this movie that just doesn't make sense. Not even from a logical standpoint, from an emotional standpoint.
They should have renamed this movie The Glorification of Willful Ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this movie is. This is old. This is a movie that is the personification of OK Boomer. That's
Right.
all it is.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm old and that's not how we did it. We did it better. But you didn't.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know how I found this movie? I watched Moneyball when it came out, and I was like, man, that was really good. I'm in a baseball movie feel. And then I watched this, and it's just the answer to Moneyball where they do the wrong things.
Yeah. Did you see this in theaters?
No, I thank God.
That's good. It's good you didn't waste your money on seeing
No.
this in theaters.
Horrible.
This is so bad because especially to the Moneyball point. Moneyball, the whole thing, they're like, we're going to start using stats. And this is just Clint Eastwood being like, I don't like computers.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to look at technology. Who needs to care about stats?
He's a shitty employee. That's what he is. He's just bad. And the bad guy in this movie is Stu from Scream, that's all he's ever gonna be.
He's
right?
never he's never going to be Shaggy from
I didn't
Scooby-Doo.
watch that movie. I didn't watch.
He's good as Shaggy in Scooby-Doo. But that's the thing. It's like,
But he's the only person at the Atlanta Braves that apparently gives a shit about staying competitive.
right. And that's the thing. There's a lot of archetypes in this movie that people could be playing. Right? There's character choices. There's strong, specific points of view that people could have.
Yeah.
And yet there's so much of the world around the characters in this movie of Clint Eastwood and Matthew Lillard's characters specifically, where everyone's just kind of wishy-washy. Like Amy Adams is supposed to be like the sharp, like shark, go-get-em lawyer, right? She's about to be made partner in her firm. She and her dad have this weird relationship, and she's like, I'm not going to help my dad out. But then all of a sudden she's willowing, she's falling up and she's got all this like stuff. She's like, I got to figure it out.
Yeah, she's following in his footsteps of being a terrible employee.
Right. And then Justin Timberlake is like, the way he's introduced makes no goddamn sense. Where he's commentating on a kid's baseball game. We don't know who he is. We don't know why he's there. He has no bearing on the story. And then maybe 15 or 20 minutes later, we find out, he's also a scout. And he has dreams of being in the play-by-play booth.
But he's also depressed that he didn't make it in the majors. Every character and every scene, you know that like whenever you're writing a script or when you're talking about story, and you're writing a scene, right? And the rule of thumb is like, this scene needs to make this story go forward, right?
I like the South Park, the Trey Parker, Matt Stone explanation of it of like, this happens, therefore this happens,
right?
But then this happens.
Yeah. This movie, watching it again last night, it's honestly kind of amazing where every scene is pointless. There is no reason. If you made this movie, if you recut this movie and only kept the parts that pushed the movie forward, you know how long this movie would be?
Maybe 5
minutes.
0
minutes. It would be 0 minutes long. It's insane.
There's so little actual Here's a crazy thing to me is that this movie. Did you, aside from how bad this movie is, did you hear that this immediately popped up to me? A year after its release, the film became the subject of a plagiarism lawsuit by a producer alleging his former partner had taken an unfinished script after dispute and conspired with his agent and Warner Brothers to present it as a work of a relative unknown.
How desperate are you that you would actually claim this story?
I know.
That's how...
Because this still isn't good.
No, it's bad.
What I think must have happened is the original script, which was written by a former minor league baseball player, said that he must have butchered his movie so much, and for him to even be like, listen, this is not what I created, and yet you stole my idea. Just trying to get money out of Warner Brothers and Clint Eastwood, which is
Good
a
for
money
him.
pit there.
You know what?
It's a
If
good
you're-
move.
If you're a minor league player, that's a money pit. So good for you. You get paid.
He said he took the script. They had a falling out. They presented it as a guy who's a former musician who wrote this horrible movie about baseball, which makes sense. If a musician doesn't know anything about baseball, he'll probably write a movie like Trouble with the Curve. And then there's all sorts of some lawsuit stuff that happened. They wound up not getting paid. All of the claims didn't even wind up working out.
No, it's
Nobody made any money off of this movie, even
Good.
in a plagiarism lawsuit.
good. It truly makes me I got upset last night watching it again because, like I said, there's just no story.
It's infuriating. Let's start from the where do you want to? Let's start from the beginning.
You lead it away. Let's go chronological order because from top to bottom, it is horrible.
Oh, from top, do you mean from the fact that we open on a long tracking shot of Clint Eastwood's house ending with him peeing?
Yes. Actually, we start with a horse for no reason.
Yeah.
And the payoff of that horse is terrible. We'll get there later. But yeah, then we go to him peeing, talking to his dick. Because
That's right. There is a horse.
Yes.
I forgot. I thought that I remember initially thinking that was part of the production logo for the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I was
Because
like,
it's
Clint Eastwood changed his logo up.
Yes. It's God, it makes me mad. All right, yeah. So
Then we
open
go
with
into
him
him
talking
peeing.
to his dick.
He's talking to his dick. Then he gets super mad and kicks away a coffee table.
Because he runs into it because as we find out, he's going blind.
Yep.
However, then he's strangling around in his fridge for breakfast and all he has is Spam. Is he poor? This is what I mean. Like we go, oh, hey, bud.
That's Edgar. He can sense that we're upset about this movie. He's come to try and calm us down. It's an emotional support cat that we have here at my home recordings of Blockbusting.
No,
So
but that's what I mean. Like every scene, this is a problem I have with Clint Eastwood movies in general. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'm just considering this a Clint Eastwood film.
It's a Clint Eastwood film.
Yeah. Like, it's the same thing like in The Mule. The Mule, I would have gladly picked The Mule. I saw someone else already talked about it on
Yep.
their podcast. I would have gladly picked that one too because I watched that this year because it had a great trailer. And then I watched it and I was like, this is just like Trouble with the Curve. He has a tendency to just throw shit into a scene that doesn't need to be there.
Right.
Like the girl that works at Jessica that works at the Comedy Store. She's in
She's in The Mule.
She's in The Mule.
She's the one who did the episode.
The scene. Oh yeah, right. The scene that she's in The Mule is bizarre. It is insane that scene exists.
Yeah.
He like walks up and he's like, "Oh, you guys need to do this to your motorcycle." And they're like, "What?" And he thinks they're guys, and then they're like, "We're not guys. We're dykes on bikes." And then he's like, "Okay." And then he walks away and he says, "Thanks, dykes." The whole rest of the movie, I'm like, man, the dykes on bikes are going to show back up because they're going to do something.
But they
never
don't.
come back.
They
It's
never come
bizarre.
back. We can't tell if Clint Eastwood if he's broke because he's eating Spam and he's saying it's the breakfast of champions, or the fact. But then, like scenes later, first of all, he has enough money to be like kicking around coffee tables and breaking them.
Right.
Then he orders mellow mushroom pizza, which is a very expensive for delivery
Very
pizza.
good.
It's
But I
very
think-
good, but
again, it's the idea of like, oh, he's ordering pizza for breakfast. Is he poor? And then we find out he's like going blind or something. And I'm like, are you going blind? Are you malnourished? Eat regular food,
Yeah.
man. Like, what is the problem?
He's just stubborn, man.
I gotta calm down.
No. Stoke that anger. Feel that fire stoke inside of you as you think about the fact that Clint Eastwood's character is someone who we learn very little about over the course of what's supposed to be he's the most important character in the movie.
They really hammer in that he's old.
He's
right?
old.
I think it comes across as like, oh, he's poor, he can't afford anything. But I think what they're really doing is that he's so old that he doesn't even think about cooking or whatever.
Right. He just wants things to be done his way, and they didn't have cooking in his day. Back in Clint Eastwood's day, if you wanted to cook, you had to go kill a woolly mammoth.
Yeah, or
put it over a
have
spit.
your wife do it, but his wife's dead.
His wife's dead. He gets drunk with his wife at her grave.
Okay, can we talk about that?
Let's
scene
talk
a
about
little
that
bit?
scene.
All right, that scene. A thing that I found out about this movie is that it came out. It was in theaters when Clint Eastwood did the famed stool speech. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Right.
So, like, basically, if you don't know,
Yeah, it was right-
during the elections of Mitt Romney,
2012. Yes.
during the elections, he was at the RNC, I think, or maybe it was just a Republican.
No, it was the RNC. It was
Right.
like day 1 or day 2. Clint Eastwood does the infamous. He has this empty stool, and he's addressing it like it's Barack Obama.
And he's like, well, let's have a Barack Obama come by. And of course he doesn't come by. He's like, that's all right. I guess we'll just talk to this stool. And then he goes on a 3-minute tirade of just talking to an empty stool. And it's embarrassing. It is universally, no one thinks it's a good idea. It's a bomb.
Right.
It is bombing for 3 minutes straight. This, in the movie, he sits and talks to his wife's grave for way too long. It shouldn't have happened at all.
Yeah.
It's like the stool speech was Shakespearean in comparison to this slam poetry of "You Are My Sunshine."
Yeah,
He
You Are My
talks, "You Are My
Sunshine."
Sunshine."
I don't understand. There's no need for him to sing the song.
He doesn't. He talks it.
Right, but
which is worse.
There's no need for him to even bring it up. It's like you know that everybody's free to wear sunscreen song, the one that's the Baz Luhrmann speech.
Yes.
It's like that. It's like his version of that.
You are my sunshine. It is awful. And then they like try to hard it up by at the end of this scene, they actually play someone singing it.
Right. And
It's
then
again, that scene could have been taken out and the movie would have been the same.
And even if they try and have a callback like they do later on when Amy Adams, after not getting her job, and Justin Timberlake after getting fired or whatever, she sings the "We Are My Sunshine." He's like, "What is that? What's that song mean?" Let's talk about, first of all, the thing that everybody seems to latch onto as a hallmark of this movie is like a good thing, is the relationship between Amy Adams and Clint Eastwood.
That's a good thing.
They say that's the best part of the movie.
severely
It is so
dysfunctional,
bad.
And not even in an intriguing way.
No. There's so little that we care about in this movie between them. They had to hire John Goodman just to be like, we need somebody to make them wanting to hang out with each other make sense.
This movie, and I say it for every movie that he's in, but like John Goodman has made terrible movies good by
Right.
being in it. He is the perfect like co-star actor.
Right.
And even he couldn't fix this movie. Like, he did a great job. There's nothing in it that he does a bad job in, but it's like, oh, nice try having John Goodman in there. It doesn't help.
John Goodman is a good way to save your bad movie.
Right, and he can't save this.
It's right there in the name. Good man.
Yeah.
He's good, but he can't do it.
Oh, and this was prime fat Goodman, too. Like, this is even before he...
I remember my favorite scene with John Goodman, and just to emphasize how bad the structure of this movie is, to the point where even the characters are making decisions that make no logical sense.
Right.
John Goodman walks into Clint Eastwood's house to be like, listen, they're gonna fire you if you got to do something. Like, go, like, you have to figure something out. Like, take the computers or whatever. Walks into his house. The pizza guy comes. He has a whole conversation with Clint Eastwood's character, and then the pizza guy comes and Clint Eastwood gives him the wrong amount of money. And then John Goodman notices Wait a minute. There's broken furniture. Oh, this coffee table that's always been in his house is not here. Wait a minute. Why is it on the couch? This is after a solid 5 minutes of being in the house and talking to Clint Eastwood before he even notices that.
Right.
That makes there's no way that that's something
Because
a real
it was
person
all
would do.
set up. It was all set up so Clint Eastwood could do another "I'm an old man and young people are stupid" joke.
Right.
It's that's haven't you heard of feng shui?
Yeah.
It's every she says she's doing yoga. He's like, "Oh, you believe in that witchcraft?" It's like he just wants to tell these terrible one-liner old people jokes.
Right.
That's all that is.
Who needs juice? I'll take the juice out of a can of Spam.
It's
Pour that into a glass in the morning.
It's an okay boomer.
This is
I
an okay
hate that
boomer and a
saying.
bad movie.
Yeah, it's all right.
Let's continue through this
Yes.
movie. So eventually, Amy Adams basically gets hornswoggled into working with her dad. So
I
he
guess she
so-
just leaves her high-paying job. Buy your dad Blue Apron or something. Like
Right.
you're rich, obviously. You're
Yeah.
living in Atlanta. You work at a high firm.
You know,
law
we
office.
don't know. Yeah, we don't exactly know what kind of law she does, but it makes a lot of money. It's all old white guys at the table, and Amy Adams is like the young ingenue lawyer, and she's like, "All right, my dad's going blind. He needs my help." And also the fact that every single man in the movie who's like, "You know baseball?" to her.
Not only do you know baseball, the date that she's on with when she like spouts off like facts about whatever baseball,
Yeah.
he's disgusted
Right.
by it. Like
He's-
he's like, "Oh, you seem to know a lot about baseball."
Right.
What the fuck is your problem, dude?
And this is somebody who she's ostensibly, the conversation they're having on the date is like, should we go exclusive?
Right.
But that means you've been dating each other for a little bit.
A while.
Baseball has come up for sure.
Again, okay, let's talk about their relationship for a second. Because, okay, so she's obviously been dating him for a while,
Right.
that they're talking about exclusivity and all that. Although at the same time, he doesn't know she likes baseball, even though that apparently is her entire life
Right.
growing up. Then later in the movie, way after, when she's working with her dad, this guy calls her mid-jog on the treadmill and is basically asking, like, "Hey, are we gonna get married?" Like, he doesn't say married, but like, I'd like us to be.
It's some
like
lawyer speak,
Yeah.
because he's also a lawyer, right?
Right.
If I remember correctly.
I think so.
And so it's some very like coded like I need you to initial here if you want to get engaged.
Which he didn't even know she was out of town. He found out from her assistant.
Right. That doesn't make any sense. either.
Doesn't make any sense. And then on that same call, when she's like, "I don't know," he's like, "All right, it's been nice knowing you." Their whole relationship, in no part of the world does that exist.
No.
You can't. You got to decide: are we exclusive? Are we like fucking? There's a Venn diagram of types of relationships, and they are all on islands with this one.
Right.
It makes no sense.
It's like if anybody is having the conversation about like should we be exclusive, there's a little bit of emotion involved.
A little bit.
This is so cold and so blasé
Yeah.
that it could only have been done by someone associated with Clint Eastwood.
Right.
Because Clint Eastwood, as we've seen with movies like The Mule, movies like American Sniper, where he used a fake baby instead of getting a real baby.
Oh, I
just
forgot
as,
that
like,
was his movie.
It's
I almost
his
picked
movie.
that movie.
It's just cold, man, because Clint Eastwood doesn't give a shit.
But it's not cold in a like intriguing way, right? 'Cause,
Right.
like there's cold in like let's explore this person that doesn't feel emotions.
Right.
No, it's cold in a glorification of like, no, this is how men are supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like
Have you seen any of the stuff, the trailers or anything for Richard Jewell? Speaking of Clint Eastwood movies.
No, is that a new one
So it's
coming
this
out?
new one that's coming
Okay.
out, and it's about the security guard who found the bomb at the Atlanta Olympics.
Oh, I did see. I did
Yeah.
not know that's Clint
It's
Eastwood.
Clint
and
Eastwood.
That bums me out because I was really excited
See,
about that.
here's the thing. So I was talking to our friend Jerron about this.
Uh-huh.
Shout out Jerron Horton. Jerron he got a screener of it and he's watching it. And I was asking him if it was. I told him I was podcasting with you about this today, and he was like, "What Clint Eastwood movie? Richard Jewell?" And I was like, "No, is that good?" And he was like, "It's good. Watch it." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
Okay.
Because here's the thing. I think based on what the trailers make it look like,
It looks good.
it's got that Clint Eastwood coldness, but but the hero isn't cold. The hero isn't like an unfeeling person. The hero you feel sympathy for.
Okay.
The rest of the world is cold. I mean, Sam Rockwell says it explicitly in the trailer. He's like, you're against the two toughest things to defend yourself against: the media and the United States government. And so it's like the whole world is cold around you. You have to be the warm beating heart that fights against that.
I hope it's good.
Right. But the problem is Clint Eastwood in his current form doesn't make movies like that.
Right.
1517 to Paris. One of my favorite episodes of this podcast with Ed Larson is a Clint Eastwood movie. Did you see that?
I did not see it.
Clint Eastwood movie starring the three guys who stopped that terrorist attack on a train in
I
France.
specifically didn't see that because I said that looks fucking terrible.
Right. Because it was.
And they got the actual guys.
Which, I mean, yeah, you want to glorify these brave individuals, go ahead.
Yeah.
But you can't have the actual dudes who saved the train and stopped the terrorist attack be the people in the movie because they don't know how to act, because they're cold men who are in the military. They're not actors. They don't have the training. They don't know how to have the warmth. They can't switch over.
Hey, guess what? Hugh Jackman, don't put him in war. He's probably going to suck at being a soldier.
Yeah, I don't want to see Hugh Jackman fighting in any kind of whatever next war we get into.
Right. Yeah.
Right? I don't want to draft Hugh Jackman. I don't want him to sing Greatest Showman songs at the enemy. That's what we have the USO for.
It's true.
This movie falls prey to feeling like a Clint Eastwood directed movie, even though it's not actually one.
Again, I'm just considering it because if you're the guy that's been the first AD for Clint Eastwood for 30 years, and he's like, he literally, because Eastwood produced it, so he literally like allowed him to direct this movie. Clint Eastwood was directing it.
He's directing it.
Yeah, like you're not going to tell the guy who's been your boss for 30 years, like,
right.
Hey, we're actually doing it this way.
There's something that we haven't even touched on yet that I feel like we have to talk about.
There's so much. What?
Bo Gentry, the shitty, horny teenager who's like the star prospect of this movie.
Can I talk about the actor that is Bo? Plays Bo Gentry.
Let's talk about the whole human being.
Let's think about this. This movie is centered around Bo. What's his last name?
Gentry.
Bo Gentry is the number one prospect in the world.
Yes.
Like, obviously in the country, but MLB
they
scouts
scout
people
from everywhere.
They'll find people in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yep.
He is the number one professional athlete prospect in the world, and they got the least athletic looking motherfucker to play this dude.
Right.
The balls on that man's agent to send him into the audition room.
I want to see what else he's been in. This actor's name, Joe Massengill. He's been in some other stuff, I think, but I honestly don't even know. But talk about him, because he's bad.
He's bad, and I'm not saying he was a terrible actor. It was bad.
No.
But like, it was also written terribly.
The part is bad because it's just like he's a good baseball player. He can hit the dingers all day. He can crash homers
for no reason.
He's not only an asshole, he's a horny asshole.
Right, yeah.
He's talking about like fucking moms, and he's racist to the guy who's selling peanuts.
Which we'll get there too.
Oh my
like,
God.
Mexicans play baseball? What? Like, Mexican, that's like 90% of MLB is Hispanic baseball players. Like, okay, but yeah, Bo Gentry, he's a shitty person who's good at baseball. He's apparently the best, and Clint Eastwood's the only person who can catch that he can't hit a curveball. Like, that's what I mean when I say this movie should be 0 minutes long. There's no scene in this movie that has to exist.
Right.
Or should exist, or logically could exist.
There's so little in this movie that you actually wind up caring about by the very end of it, because every character is either like reprehensible or just dumb.
Atlanta is the black. I'm just speaking to that, how every character sucks. Atlanta is the blackest city in the country.
Right.
And there was only one black person in this movie, and he was the best friend of the adorable racist. That's
Right.
it. Like,
Yeah.
the guy who's like, oh, let's just keep saying black people are good at stuff until he gets, you really pissed me off. And he tips his hat. And that's the joke.
Here's how crazy this movie is. If you haven't seen it, there's this part at the very end. I always spoil shit on this podcast because why not? You're never gonna watch this movie. I
You
guarantee
should, though.
you
Really should.
No, you should.
Don't pay for it.
If
but you should
anything, watch
it.
it just for this scene. There's a part. It's so close to the end of the movie. I think there's like 20 minutes left after this happens. Clint Eastwood and Amy Adams have this crazy blowout right before all of the stuff goes down with the actual MLB draft.
Right.
And for some reason, out of nowhere, they decide to throw in an entire subplot to explain why Clint Eastwood and Amy Adams have a strained relationship about Clint Eastwood walking in on her getting molested.
Right.
It doesn't make... It's to the point where like I was checking out of this movie and I was like, I'm gonna at least like fold laundry while the rest of this movie happens because this movie has not hooked me. And then I stopped because I heard he got his hand up your shirt, and I was like, wait a fucking second, this movie was about baseball 5 seconds ago. And I rewound and I watched the whole scene over again. It doesn't make sense.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you caught. I didn't catch it the first time I watched it, but the second time. That is how they tie back to the horse galloping at the beginning.
Is that how they did it? I missed that.
Exactly, because it doesn't make any fucking sense. All right, so the horse galloping at the beginning is just his subconscious. He's always thinking about that. He says one line in this story of her getting touched and molested. It's like, oh, we were hanging out. This one field had a horse shed by it. And they let the horse run around the field, and while we were watching, I lost track of where you were, and then I went over to the shed, and that's where I found you. That's what the horse was.
Oh God!
That whole scene was basically the writer getting to page 87 of the script and being like, "Wow, there really is no reason for this story to exist. Man, how can I make their tension all going up to this? Like, there has to be a reason they have to be tense,
Right."
She got molested.
But that doesn't even make sense because the whole rest of the time, the tension ostensibly, based on all of the exposition in the dialogue, is, well, he got super wrapped up in work, and so he never saw her, which is enough. That's all you really need. You don't need
it's
a whole
not enough
lot.
for a movie, but at least at that point, it almost makes logical sense.
It's enough for their relationship to be strained.
Right.
I get that. Like, you don't.
And by the way, that's her reality.
Yeah.
That the tension had nothing to do with getting molested because she says, "Oh, I don't remember that."
Right.
This is
As far as we know, Clint Eastwood's character could be lying to her.
Right. Clint Eastwood has made her getting like almost molested his PTSD.
Right. It is.
It's like, oh, how,
like he got
how
molested.
bad for you that your kid almost got molested.
It should have been me in that shit.
Right. And then
touched.
It kind of like hints that he killed the guy because like he says he strangles him until he like passes out. And he's like just waiting for the cops to call him. Mm-hmm. And then
he's like,
I
beat the shit out of the man. It does. There's so and that also I guess is supposed to explain why he like. When a guy's hitting on her at a bar, he like snaps and smashes a bottle.
Yeah,
which is totally like, even in the context of, oh, I watched my daughter almost get molested. So now that she's a grown woman, seeing another man try and like have a dance with her makes me want to slash his throat over a pool table. It's just too much. And it's too much, man.
And then at the same time, like, because he likes Justin Timberlake, he's like, you guys should go out. Go get out of here.
Right.
Go fuck already.
I want you to fuck my daughter, Justin Timberlake.
I like you, Justin Timberlake. Which, by the way, in this movie, no chance of them ever fucking, because let's talk about that now. Let's talk about the lack of chemistry between Justin Timberlake and Amy Adams.
Right.
Again, I want to point out that I think Amy Adams is one of the best actors of our time.
Great actor.
She is
really
fantastic.
Good in almost everything she does.
Really. So I cannot put any of the blame on her. And really, Justin Timberlake, he's fine. he could have pulled this off, but the writing in this movie is so bad. The chemistry between them has the sexuality of a bowl of pudding. That's what that is. There's a 10-minute scene of them on a date that starts with them clogging and ends with them shirt on swimming in the
they're like
lake.
shirt on skinny dipping. It's very weird.
And it ends with a 5th grader's idea of making out.
Right.
It is disgusting to watch. It is so bland. Not even vanilla, like just unflavored
Tapioca.
cream.
Gross.
It is so gross.
It's so, and also like Justin Timberlake, I will say that I think the only reason he even works in this movie is because he's a charming human being.
right.
He is basically being Justin Timberlake in this movie without the singing and dancing. He's like
the
if
best part
Justin
of the
Timberlake was never in NSYNC, yeah, I could see him being a pitcher who like flamed out and wound up getting into being a baseball scout.
Although I will say, and I wonder if they shot this scene first. Just talking on his acting, is that the last scene when he's mad and he's driving off because like he thinks that Clint Eastwood tricked him into like not
to not picking Bo Gentry.
He's driving off. Watch the scene again if you can. He has a Boston accent at that point because he works for the Red Sox. Like that whole scene, for some reason, he just decided to have a strong Boston accent, and I'm wondering if he did that. Like if they shot that scene first, and he was like, "I'm a Boston guy. I'll just be Boston," and he was like, "Nah, this sounds bad. I'm just gonna stop." And because the director decided not to direct this movie, no one caught it.
I would 100% buy that.
Yeah.
I think that makes total fucking sense because if you're going to watch a Clint Eastwood movie, you have to basically give it a handicap
Right.
of knowing, all right, well, they got the best that they could out of the very first take. And at least Clint Eastwood has been in the business long enough that he probably understands how to direct people.
Right.
And direct actors to do certain things in a certain way to get what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with this guy who's worked with Clint Eastwood and is deciding this is going to be his directorial debut and what it looks like the last movie he will also ever get to direct.
There's like 3 movies on his IMDb that are in production.
Right. And none of those are ever going to come to fruition.
Never going to happen.
And I think that is this movie is like a weird anomaly of like, I remember people talking about it and they're like, oh, it's going to get Oscar attention because it's Clint Eastwood and Amy Adams. And then watching it, it's just like, how could anyone ever think that this movie is a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes?
Right.
I think Clint Eastwood's production company is paying people off to write like decent reviews of this movie.
Clint Eastwood has a very loyal following of old people that are just like,
They're like the baseball scouts in this movie.
Exactly. Like everything he says in this movie that you just roll your eyes at, there's a whole section of people that are like, that's right.
Some more boomers.
Damn right.
Boomers ready to vouch for Clint Eastwood till the day he dies.
Just the anti-intellectualism, which with this, it's funny that it's like with baseball, it's like you're just ignoring data, right? You're just ignoring proven things. Like when John Goodman's like line when he's like, there's computers, you can just like have all this information. It's like, yeah, but I enjoy this. Yeah, but you're an employee. You're wasting so much time looking at all this data when you could still do your fucking put an hearing aid in and listen to your thing after you've looked at the base data. You're wasting time. You're wasting the Atlanta Braves time.
You're a
shitty employee.
You're not only a shitty employee, but you didn't even take the time from a writing standpoint also for Matthew Lillard's character as a villain to be so cartoony that he's like he can't even turn on a computer. He can't even turn on a typewriter.
Right.
That's so like cartoonish of like of the level of like okay boomer, like the okay millennial flip side of it, where it's like it's the absolute worst version of like there's no nuance in this movie.
Right.
There's nobody cares about anything in this movie. You just want to try and slap out as much exposition as possible. Like if you want to watch a movie that is basically a masterclass in how to explain things without actually making them compelling or interesting, this is the movie for you.
Yes.
This is it's so bad. They should have called this movie Dummy Ball, because this movie's for fucking idiots.
Yeah. And what's funny is mentioning Moneyball. Moneyball doesn't do the opposite of this. Moneyball actually like looks at those guys. It gives the people that are like the old time scouts, it gives them like a compelling like point of view, right? Like those guys have been in it for a while. They do notice like little things. They don't say, well, you're a fucking idiot, like, because you do this archaic shit. No, they're like, let's get this data first and then look at all this stuff. It's like, if you're gonna try to make like a smart movie about like the nuances of a sport, be smart about it.
Right.
Don't be a fucking idiot.
That's the beauty of Moneyball. Moneyball made something that a topic that no average sports fan or just average like moviegoer, I would say, is going to care about, which is highly specialized sports statistics, sabermetrics. And it made them compelling and interesting enough to be like an Oscar-worthy film. Like a film.
Yeah.
This isn't even a film. This is barely a movie.
And this goddamn movie hoodwinked me, because when it came out and it had a good trailer, I'll tell you this, Clint Eastwood movies have 100% good trailers.
The Mule had a great trailer.
The Mule had such a good... The Mule fucking hoodwinked me, dude.
Yeah.
I went into the Mule. I went to the theaters to see that, because I was like, this is going to be good, because the trailer like made it seem like a return to like gritty Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and it's just, I don't want to talk about the Mule. I'm sure you've already talked about it.
We have.
But
I mean,
fucking terrible.
I vote we just stop talking about Clint Eastwood, because fuck Trouble with the Curve. This movie's bad. Don't waste your time. Go watch Moneyball instead.
Yeah. Maybe watch it just to because it really is like, it's one of those so bad that it's intriguing how bad they got it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a movie that it's like, I don't know. You know, sometimes there's bad movies like The Room or Troll 2 where like they're bad movies made in complete with like so much love and but just like no knowledge of how to actually make the movie right.
Yeah.
That's not what happened with Trouble with the Curve. What happened with Trouble with the Curve is a lot of people being like, we're making a really great movie. And just being very like serious about it. Instead of just sort of like charmingly stumbling their way through making a movie and having the best intentions, they had like Shark, like, we're gonna make a great movie, we're gonna make this is gonna be an important movie. That's the difference. Instead of thinking like we're gonna make something good, they're like, we're gonna make this great.
And every line, no, you said it right when you said important. They really thought like every line was like a jab at like millennials or a jab at like the youth or the new. Yeah. It was like, no, like, and it's...
Or a jab at family or a jab at relationships.
Yeah.
Fuck this movie. This movie's so bad. Joe, I love you, but I hate that you made me watch this movie.
Wow.
This is 45 minutes.
That's how bad it was.
This is a full episode.
We didn't take a breath on this one.
Nope. No, there's not going to be a whole lot that gets edited out with the truncate silence function of Audacity.
Nice.
Joe, thank you for bringing this movie to my attention.
J Light.
Can you tell the viewers and listeners where they can find you besides the wonderful midnight special?
Midnight special.
3 clubs.
3 clubs every Friday. Come out at midnight after you've already been drinking. All right, you're out at a bar. You're drinking. You're getting kicked out of a bar. You know what? We'll take you. All right, come on in. Have a good time. Also, catch me on iTunes with the Hometown Heroes podcast. We're going to get that started back up again, but watch the old ones or listen to the old ones.
Nice. And at Joe Carl Abousakher on...
At Here with Joe Carl.
At Here with Joe Carl. Yep. There you go. Look at that. Follow him on the social media. You can find me at Diet J on Twitter and Instagram. JLightComedy.com for show dates. I still can't talk. I had a problem with my roast battle last night with not talking. I got to sleep more. I'm going to sleep in today.
Take a nappy nap.
Nappies. If you like the show, tell a friend, subscribe, join the Facebook group, subscribe on Patreon. That's it. This has been Blockbusting. Go see something good for a change.
Bye.
Bye.